The athleticism of cheerleading has often been questioned, but in the world of competitive cheerleading, there is no question. These cheerleaders are athletes. Their objective is to provide the audience with 2 minutes and 30 seconds of sheer flawless entertainment. They must compete through injuries and devote an immense amount of time to their routine. This sport combines strength, motivation, and business into one lifestyle. And for competitive cheerleaders, that's the only way to live.
When I initially started cheering, it was competitive cheerleading. It was 15 plus years ago when I started, and we thought we were the biggest and baddest thing back then. We toss girls in flipping baskets, make them flip really high in the air, just do all these really big tricks, and it was more of a showcase. And then with each year, right when you think that cheerleading has just kind of gone as far as it can go, you have these people who come out who are innovative and who come out with these new tricks and new skills that just kind of push the envelope even more. And with that push, you have a higher drive to succeed, a bigger drive to succeed, which, that's when you get the true competitive spirit out of the athletes. And that's always the best when you see those kids who come in and who realize that it is competitive cheerleading. It's not sideline cheerleading. It's not recreational cheerleading. It's competitive cheerleading.
When I started cheerleading, it was kind of just a really local thing. Like, you kind of knew your teammates and you knew the gyms around you. And now it's turned into multi-million-dollar business. There's companies out there who are just targeting competitive cheerleaders, and the competitions have turned into small local things to huge national competitions. And it really is its own separate business now. It really is the business side of it is more a big part of it, making money and owning gyms, and it's a lot bigger than when I started out.
When I started, I was really little. So I didn't really know much about it, but it was really small. You just had youth, junior, and senior, and then you just had beginner, intermediate, and advanced. There were no levels. There wasn't levels 1 through 5. There wasn't really many co-ed teams and stuff like that. It was real small, and it's completely changed so much.
And I think as you get older and as you're more experienced in it, it becomes a bigger deal. But when you were younger, there was a lot smaller teams. They're cheerleading, competitive cheerleading wasn't that big of a deal when I was younger. But as I've gotten older and as the sport has expanded, I definitely think it's become more of a bigger deal. And there's obviously more tricks people do, and more tumbling and stunts. And as things progress, you can definitely tell the changes that happen with that.
Definitely. Changes all over the place. One, the equipment is so much more high-tech to help us get better skills. We used to be on a foam mat, and now we're on a spring floor mat like you see gymnasts compete on and stuff like that. And also just the level of competition, the amount that the girls put in to get better. Used to, you could have a very low skill and you were considered amazing, and now you have to have these incredible skills to be considered amazing. And you see a lot more gymnastic-style tumbling in routines now to be competitive, and you didn't see that before.
Typical injuries are ankle sprains. That would probably be the most. Landing wrong, being let down too rough, tumbling runs in which they land the wrong direction. So I'd say ankle sprains would be the number one. Second thing that you would see would be wrist sprains or wrist contusions. That's when they tumble, that they impact wrong, that they'll have some wrist pain. So basically I would say ankle and wrist pain would be the number 1 and 2 most common injuries in competitive and non-competitive cheerleading athletes.
While I've been in cheerleading, I have seen a lot of injuries. I guess my first serious injury that I witnessed was probably my freshman or sophomore year, and I was in the back of a routine and a girl came tumbling towards me right in front of me, and she fell and broke her neck. That was probably the most serious injury that I've seen. Personally, injury-wise, it's been nothing too serious. I have got like a really serious concussion from being a back splat because I'm super tall, but but that's pretty much it. Yeah, nothing like too serious, but like personally, but I've seen, you know, some serious stuff.
Of course, you know, you have your common sprained ankles, sprained wrists. I've broken just about every finger, you know, just by doing a flip and putting my hands on the ground the wrong way and, you know, snapping fingers off to the side. And that's one of those things where, you know, I was in warm-ups one time and snapped my finger and, you know, just taped it up really tight because you have to go out there and perform. So just taped it tight and, you know, went through and made sure I could do the routine.
First, it was when I was like really little. I was on a youth team and I fractured my wrist and went to the doctor and they said that I had a like disease, I guess it would be, I don't know. It's called gymnast wrist, and whenever you tumble, it makes small stress fractures, and if you keep tumbling on it, it can eventually just break all the way through. So I had that, and then there's my ankle, and at one point my knee, it kind of like started growing in the wrong way, and so I had to do like a lot of physical therapy and stuff for that. I've had back problems. My shoulders actually like kind of pop out of socket when I'm stunting. So all this stuff I've had to do physical therapy for. That's not really fun, but.
There's different types of grades of ankle sprains. There's 1, 2, and 3. Most of the time they're about a 2. So anytime I see ankle sprains, I'd say on an average they're out about 2 to 3 weeks. And then as far as the wrist is concerned, the impact on the wrist, but basically I would try to get them back pretty quickly. They just would be restricted from tumbling for a while. So again, that's probably about the same time, 2 to 3 weeks.
We see a lot of injuries every day. A lot of times just like bloody noses, broken fingers, stuff like that. The more major injuries are people blowing out their knees and broken noses. So
I've seen, most recently, I had a girl bouncing on the trampoline, and we all saw the kids one at a time on the trampoline. 2 girls, you know, buddy up in the side. We're going to double bounce each other. You know, if you're bouncing on the trampoline, if you hit it, it springs the other side. So if someone else is on there, it springs them up really high. Well, they distract me, throw something in the pit. You know, just being teenage girls, I guess they thought it would be fun. And right as I turned my head, I hear a girl go, "Ow," and I look back, and this girl's holding on to her knee, and she's like, "Levon, something's wrong with my leg." And as I walk over, the girl had double bounced her. The impact, she came down at the wrong time. So hard, it took the knee bone, her shin, and it snapped it in half, stuck it out of her leg, came out of the leg, went through the trampoline, and then back inside of her leg. So when I look, all I see is a little hole about this big. It looked like she just had a scrape on her leg. And as I get closer, I realized that it was a compound fracture. The bone had come out.
My first things were just like, I would like twist my ankles and stuff, and I broke my ankle in gymnastics, but I just had a cast in that for like 8 weeks, and then I was back. And in cheerleading, I ruptured a disc in my back, and so that I was out for like a month for that, but then I just came back.
Then once I started coaching, that's when I saw, I guess, bigger injuries. Of course, I had the injury where I broke my wrist. Actually, here on the floor where I'm actually sitting, I had a girl break her neck, which is definitely the biggest and most catastrophic injury that I've seen. She was doing a flip that she had perfected for many years. She had performed it in the routine over and over again. We were just having a random practice, and she went up and she said it felt like she hit a wall and just kind of stopped flipping and came down head first on the ground. She jumped up, grabbed her neck, and then just slumped over. She had a halo fracture in her neck, I think with the 3rd vertebrae, and they actually said because of the halo fracture, that's what, you know, made sure that she wasn't paralyzed. It's really fun because it's totally a production. You see these girls go out there, these girls and guys, these young athletes, these young kids my daughter doesn't, she's 5 years old, but you see these kids from 4 up until 18 that go out there and they do these huge routines, these massive tricks, these big skills in 2.5 minutes. And because you have that time limit of 2.5 minutes, you try to jam pack as much in that 2.5 minutes as you can.
Yeah, I do school cheerleading too, and we have practice every day for that, and then I come to practice here after those practices, so it's a big commitment.
It's a good amount of work. You learn your routine a couple of months in advance before going out there to compete, and they work a good amount of hours throughout the week, just constantly working on their skills.
We make sure that counts are on, kids are hitting their marks, formations are straight, lines are straight, and on top of all that, making sure that they're performing in the face as well, that they never forget that this is still a show. It's got to be theatrical. Then we go to our first competition normally in late October or early November. And even though we've got the routine ready to go on the floor by that time, it's still not at its peak. We try not to make the kids peak until the height of the competition season, which is normally March. So you got to think we've got these kids from the end of April, beginning of May, all the way until January, February, March, where we need them to peak. So you can't push them too hard too soon, but then you also want to make sure that those kind of first times you get out on the mat, they've still got a show that's ready to go.
Yeah, it's a team thing because your team needs you. You can't just be like, yeah, I'm hurt, but when you think about it, so many other girls are like so hurt, and it kind of looks like when you're hurt and you just sit out, it kind of almost seems like you're being selfish, like when you think about it, because like right now, so many girls on our team are hurt and they still like push through, and like we have girls cry at practice because like it hurts so bad and they still push through, so you just really like other people motivate you. But at the same time, it's just like you feel, it's like you fit in. Like it's not like the fact you're like, oh, I'm a cheerleader. It's the fact that like you go out there and you know like people are screaming for you and you know that other people depend on you, and it's just like really self-motivation. It's just like I can, like, I'm doing something for other people, and it's just like a really good feeling, I guess.
The athleticism of cheerleading has often been questioned, but in the world of competitive cheerleading, there is no question. These cheerleaders are athletes. Their objective is to provide the audience.
15 plus years ago when I started, and we thought we were the biggest and baddest thing back then. We toss girls in flipping baskets, make them flip really high in the air, just do all these really big tricks, and it was more of a showcase. And then, with each year, right when you think that cheerleading has just kind of gone as far as it can go, you have these people who come out who are innovative and who come out with these new tricks and new skills that just kind of push the envelope even more. And
with 2 minutes and 30 seconds of sheer flawless entertainment. They must compete through injuries and devote an immense amount of time to their routine. This sport combines strength, motivation, and business into one lifestyle. And for competitive cheerleaders, that's the only way to live.
when I initially started cheering, it was competitive cheerleading. It was 15. And with that push, you have a higher drive to succeed, a bigger drive to succeed, which that's when you get the true competitive spirit out of the athletes. And that's always the best, when you see those kids who come in and who realize that it is competitive cheerleading. It's not sideline cheerleading. It's not recreational cheerleading. It's competitive cheerleading.
When I started cheerleading, it was kind of just a really local thing. Like, you kind of